Hello indie game fans! If you can't wait to dive into some of the upcoming Metroidvania games that I covered a couple of weeks ago, here's a selection of 25 of the best games in the genre that you can play right now. We'll start off the list with a couple that don't exactly fit into the definition of an indie Metroidvania for one reason or another, starting with Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, one that leverages on a beloved IP and is from a surprisingly large team in France. AA WayForward's Shantae series is excellent as well, of which I think the current best one is Pirate's Curse, as well as The Mummy Demastered, which was a nice surprise given how poorly the Dark Cinematic Universe project was received. We also have the gorgeous Blasphemous, a pixel art action platformer steeped in Catholic imagery but lacks traversal ability gating, as well as the now not so indie Hitlander with its 70s sci-fi aesthetic and gimmick of plopping your head on bodies to unlock new areas.
The aberration has escaped.
Of course, the AAA Metroidvania Ori and the Blind Forest and Will of the Wisps is worth a mention. And rounding off this selection is fan favorite Cave Story, which felt just a little too linear to qualify as a Metroidvania per se, but a good game and a sad story, since developer Pixel got screwed over by publisher Nicalis on this, so if you're looking to play it, please download the freeware version instead. Alright, so moving on to the main list with GATO ROBOTO from 2019. This leans much more on the Metroid side of things, as you play as a cat who can pilot an armored mech suit in an effort to save your stranded human in his crashed spaceship. There's an elegance to the design of this, doing so much with so little, especially in terms of the art style and colour palette, but a well-made, more contained experience. From one cat-focused Metroidvania to the next, Cat Maze is from a solo developer and is impressive for what it is. Set in a world of Slavic mythology, play as a sorceress on a grand adventure, travelling through marshes, caves and more in order to do so. The most unique aspect of this is the usage of familiars, where you don't directly attack but rely on these. They also act as your ability to access new areas with a nice variety of them and RPG mechanics like leveling, equipment and variants as well. The pixel art is not the best per se, but pretty alright, but combat can feel just a little bit clunky. However, the exploration in this is excellent, with quite a large interconnected world filled with challenging platforming and secrets to uncover. So one title which is often overlooked, which you should play if you have not. It is no secret that Metroidvania games are very inspired by games of the past, and one which seems especially blatant in this regard is ALWA'S. Perhaps sharing more in common with Zelda 2 and Wonder Boy than Metroid or Castlevania, but with its share of unlockable abilities and exploration as well. One of the best looking retro-inspired games that I have ever seen, this one is another hidden gem that is certainly worth a play. While the most obvious thing in Metroidvanias is combat, there are some games which challenge that idea and are the better for it, so here we are with the puzzle-focused ALWA'S Awakening. Don't get me wrong, there are enemies, challenging platforming and boss fights here, but the core exploration and uncovering of secrets is so satisfying, with a large variety of biomes to experience. Wonderful 8-bit look as well, nailing what makes NES-style games so great, with quite a nice amount of freedom in the non-linearity of exploration. Again, criminally overlooked and worth a play. The most recent entry on this list is Kunai, the Metroidvania most recently featured in my best of recap of the games of February. The highlight has to be the dual kunai-based grappling hooks that allow you to traverse seamlessly across the world, and add to that the awesome feeling of playing as a ninja, an interesting colour scheme, and areas to explore, and you have yourself quite a great little game. A little bit uneven in the pacing though, but worth a play nonetheless. Alright, this one is a fan favourite, which combines Devil May Cry with Castlevania with VALDIS story Abyssal City. Explore the ruins of a fallen holy city, caught between a battle of darkness and light, all while the human population dwindles and continues to die. This has a variety of characters, different builds, and an awesome visual style, but what really strikes me is the fluidity of the combat animations. Little bit of a Souls-like vibe to this, but again, the combat is excellent and worth messing around with. It is no secret that I do love adorable games, and one which I shout out every chance that I get is YOKU'S. This takes place in a cute and bizarre world filled with all sorts of oddities and made-up words, where you play as an exiled wham kicked out of his apartment and must find a new home. Explore locations from Popo City to Picopolis and interact with Fanakers, Blasters and Splend Hackers, where I suppose you would consider all of these to be adorable nonsense, but it is all so charming. While this is more about exploration and adventure game style puzzle solving, there are combat encounters and boss fights as well, but if you just want to experience a wonderful world where you're not quite sure what to expect around the corner, YOKU'S will give you that experience, and the exploration and wonder are the main selling points. Released at the tail end of last year is SUPEREPIC The Entertainment War. Despite my efforts to showcase it in my coverage in December, it appears to have not gotten much traction, which is a real shame, since this is a very cleverly designed game with scathing commentary on the modern game industry. Play as a pair of a raccoon and a llama, reminiscing on the good old days of gaming, since a megacorp has consolidated all game development and is pushing loot boxes and microtransactions. For a raccoon riding a llama, this controls very nicely with accurate jumps and pinpoint combat. All of your standard Metroidvania elements are present, like traversal ability unlocks like a double jump, a contiguous map, and upgradable equipment, but this even adds in optional meta-game elements in having you scan QR codes and unlocking parody mini-games like a Flappy Bird clone and an idle game as well. Great look as well, and another hidden gem. If it made my Game of the Year list throughout the years, then it would probably stand a good chance of appearing in videos like this, which is true of Minoria, from the creators of the Momodora series of games. While admittedly, the reception to this from both the community and the developers' self-reflection has not been so hot, I did enjoy this title due to the combat and aesthetics. A little bit smaller in scale and more Souls-like in nature, but awesome nonetheless. The story of Iconoclasts is quite a long one, since it took something like 10 years to finish, which is an insane amount of time and not the best way to go about it. But thankfully, the developer pulled through and the game is indeed very good. This is a narrative-heavy Metroidvania about a world where it is illegal to be a mechanic, with a militant religious organization in the mix as well. The platforming in this feels real good, with a variety of wrench-based traversal really linking together quite nicely. Massive boss battles, an interesting world, fascinating characters, and a central plot that keeps you playing. The high-bit pixel art is excellent as well, with bright colors, high detail, and just pleasing to the eyes. So pick it up if you haven't and support this developer. We return back to the more puzzle-focused Metroidvanias with LA-MULANA, first released on Steam in 2013. While there has since been a sequel, and the double pack is releasing pretty soon, I would say give the original a shot if you want to experience something magical. Play as a very Indiana Jones looking archaeologist diving into the ancient ruins of LA-MULANA in search for the secret treasure of life. Do bear in mind that this game is rather obtuse, but encourages exploration at your own pace, and I have heard stories of people hand-drawing the map and keeping a notebook on this title. While guides are now available, I would recommend at least giving this a shot first, and if it clicks with you, could potentially be one of your favorite games ever. DANDARA released back in 2018, but did recently get a free patch in the Trials of Fear edition, adding more content and improving the quality of life. So if it didn't jive with you the first time around, this is a great time to go back. Play as the character paying homage to Brazilian folk heroine DANDARA. The traversal in this is the most unique aspect, since you can't walk or run, but rather can stick to ceilings and walls coated with salt. Very innovative in the space and quite the unique experience. Another hidden gem of 2019 is Cathedral, which basically answers the question, what if Shovel Knight was a Metroidvania? While it sports a similar visual look, this actually has a contiguous map with different layers, challenging boss fights, multiple armor sets, magic, a selection of abilities that you can swap between, towns to explore, NPCs to chat with, items to buy, secrets, and that wonderful nostalgic feeling. Again, another title which I have no idea why people are not talking about, but it is excellent, so go pick it up if you have not.
They came for my home. They came for my friends. They came for my family. Now, I control time itself.
When it comes to paying tribute to Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, perhaps the one that comes the closest in an almost blatant level is TIMESPINNER. Join Timekeeper Lunais as she travels through time and space, seeking revenge on the Empire for the death of her family. On top of fantastic pixel art, the combat feels unique since she controls different types of orbs and uses these to attack, much like the familiars in Cat Maze mentioned above. Wonderful sci-fi and fantasy locations to explore, with RPG elements, leveling and stats as well. The manipulation of time allows you to use enemies as platforms to access new areas, so fun exploration as well, and this is yet another labor of love that took so many years to get done. From one time-bending title to the next, Touhou Luna Nights is another favourite of mine from last year, where, as many of you guys have mentioned, our heroine shares some things in common with Dio, such as the ample use of knives and the ability to freeze time before that. While the Touhou fan games have mostly been focused on bullet hell titles, we are seeing an increasing widening of genres, with this Metroidvania being one of the standouts so far. Lovely pixel art, although this one is a little more linear than I would have liked, but a fun one nonetheless. Hey guys, if you can, do support me on Patreon since I'm currently trying to upgrade my microphone and to reinvest in the channel. You do also get access to a members only Discord channel, so thank you all for the support. Okay, please bear with me on this one. Despite the bunny girls, fan service, and well, overall perviness of this title, Reverie is a surprisingly good Metroidvania in terms of exploration and upgrades and very challenging bullet hell style boss battles. It states 9 main areas, 20 sub-areas, 60 items and upgrades, 20 fully illustrated characters with their corresponding cutscenes, and more than 1,000 attack patterns from enemies and bosses, so it certainly isn't lacking in the content. Again, a title that I don't see mentioned enough, just don't let your mom walk in on you with this one. While the original SteamWorld did remind me of those mining flashlights where you descend into the earth, gather minerals, return to the surface, and buy more upgrades in order to mine more efficiently, SteamWorld Dig 2 ratchets things up with a much improved graphical look, even more upgrades and traversal abilities, more distinct biomes and towns to explore. Play as Dorothy on a quest to find her missing friend in just a bigger and better sequel to the first game. There's some backtracking as well, but the really compelling gameplay loop will keep you hooked from start to finish.
Embark on a new kind of adventure.
We now move on to one of my favorite indie games ever in YOKU'S Island Express, a self-titled pinballvania, which I have such a love for due to how unique it is.
Meet an unforgettable cast.
If you told me that pinball of all things could be combined with a Metroidvania, I would have said that you were crazy, but the team at Villa Gorilla managed to pull this one off with one of the best leaked title cards that I have seen. Explore and uncover the secrets of Mokumana Island while trying to protect the ancient guardian deity of the island. The design and incorporation of pinball tables and pedals into the island is wonderful and so well done, with a fantastic soundtrack and awesome watercolor visuals. One thing though is that it doesn't feel fully developed, with some ideas like painting of the ball not being fully utilized, but very excited to see what's next from this team. If you love Super Metroid and are lamenting Nintendo not making a new one, then can I introduce Axiom Verge to you? Explore a surreal alien planet with grotesque, fleshy monsters and mechanical titans with a story and structure that was a real surprise. The multitude of weapons and the introduction of glitching does really change things up, so what on the surface looks like another one of these, in fact actually becomes quite a special experience. I've often mentioned Rogue Legacy as the title that brought me into indie gaming, but in a not so distant second place is the original Guacamelee, which has since been updated to the Super Turbo Championship Edition. Play as a humble agave farmer, Juan, who, for the sake of love, dons a mystical luchador mask and transforms into our hero. The various references to other games and Metroid in particular makes this a hoot, with a very effectively conveyed theme inspired by Mexican culture. The dimension swapping between the land of the living and the dead contributed to some really awesome platforming challenges, and while there is a sequel which some people love, the original still holds a very special place in my heart. Also, the devil and chickens are involved.
Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition.
Developer Bomb Service gets a double feature as well, since this is their genre, with the best example so far being Momodora, Reverie Under the Moonlight. While the series dates back to 2010, with the first two being exclusively on itch, this fourth installment really takes things up a notch, with a story of fighting through a cursed land to seek an audience with the Queen to get the help that our protagonist needs to dispel evil from the world. While priestesses and monster girls are features in this series, the challenging boss battles are one of the highlights, with some nice pixel art and great interconnected world design. While there isn't much variety in weapons, items play a much more significant role, which is interesting game design, but of course, fantastic combat, which does feel like that one elephant in the room of a game that I have not mentioned yet. Alright, so some minor spoilers here, since The Messenger starts off as a Ninja Gaiden-like action platformer, but evolves into so much more, encouraging you to backtrack and explore past levels. This has an interesting traversal hook, where hitting things in midair restores your jump, with one of the best writing that I have ever seen in Metroidvania games, especially with regards to the character and story. Retro-inspired look, which really works well, and excellent overall. Some of you may be surprised to find out that the developer of Environmental Station Alpha also made Baba Is You, so it's interesting to see the gears turn in the design of this game. Despite the simple look, ESA is one of the most challenging titles in the genre, with very tough boss battles and punishing platforming. Plenty of secrets and even post-game content rounds off this exploration-centric Metroidvania, and again, not enough people are talking about this one. Spoilers of course, but my Game of the Year of 2019 makes this list with Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, with the lead behind this one being Koji Igarashi, most closely associated with the Castlevania franchise. Squint at this and you can see how similar it is in design to Symphony of the Night, but this kickstarted project certainly was a long time coming and somehow managed to come together despite all the trials and tribulations. with the final product again being one of my favourite games ever. Perhaps not so indie, given the massive budget and the teams that worked on it, this nonetheless is a testament to the power of crowdfunding and stands as a gigantic middle finger to Konami. Rounding off the video, of course, is Hollow Knight, where you explore the bug-filled ruined kingdom of Hello Nest, with a world and lore that rivals that of Dark Souls. On top of the Souls-like nature of the death system, the moody world created, numerous enemies, insanely challenging boss fights, and interesting charm and upgrade system has made it a runaway success with fans and critics alike. While not without criticism, the mapping system and slow starts being a common issue that I have seen, I was lucky in that this game did click with me and thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. Of course, with Silksong on the horizon, looking for more goodness from Team Cherry, but if you still have not played this, do give this a shot, since it takes the #1 spot. Oh, special mention goes to Axiom Verge 2, which I somehow missed in my last video, which looks significantly different from the first game and I hope will have some interesting ideas. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, share and subscribe. Check out the recommended playlist or the best pick for you, and I will see you after the jump.